Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, boys and girls, back. Another episode of the Investigative Journal this week on Monday. Yes, we're here back. I'm Greg Anthony, First Amendment Radio. And our discussion today is going to be about the Jesuits in the American colonies from 1700 to 1899. Probably won't get that far, but that's a good start. And you know, Americans love history about as much as they like going to the dentist. But they also despise, dislike, hate, don't want anybody talking about the true history of the United States of America. They don't want to talk about the Vatican connection. They don't want to talk about how the Founding Fathers were in the pocket of the Vatican-led New World Order, and how the Constitution of the United States was basically there to allow the Vatican to infiltrate back into this country. Because they were persona non grata. The original people that came here did not want any part of the Vatican here in America because they realized the intentions were never good, and look what they were coming from in England. And the Jesuits and the Vatican were known for their political corruption, their intrigue, their basic hatred, dislike, and killing of Protestants. So why would they want to bring, that's the people coming here, these tyrants to America? And for sure, if you look back in history, even to those who don't delve deeper than what you get in college books, which is a bunch of crap, you'll see that there were very few Jesuits, very few Catholics here. They weren't allowed to hold office. But once the Constitution was ratified and everybody had equal rights, freedom of religion, guess what? Look at the Jesuit-Vatican connection and stronghold in this country today. It is huge, 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 huge. The largest. They own more, next to our government, they own more money, land, connections to business, to finance, to political intrigue. There's no group here that we should kick out, but can't, because there's too many of them. And there, you know, that day is long past for, you know, someone to sit on a pedestal or go to Hyde Park or go to downtown New York and start getting on a soapbox and say, let's kick out all the Jesuits. It isn't going to happen. And second of all, the guy'd be put in an insane asylum if he went there more than one day. So, why am I going back into history today? Because it is very, very alarming to people. In fact, I figure after I start this, about 90% of the people will turn it off and will go look for some goofy YouTube, something that'll interest their feeble minds for a few moments, and then go on to something else, forgetting about what they did before. Because, you know, they're doing studies now, and I don't know how scientific they are, but I can do a study based on my own brain that once we started doing this internet thing back in the 90s, or was it the early 2000s, that's going on almost 25 years now or something. And if you do this every day, surf the web, read on the internet, do nothing but do this, your attention span diminishes. I can attest to that. I used to be able to sit and read a book. Now I can't even get to page 5. I used to be able to carry on a great conversation. Now I can't do it without looking at my telephone after 30 seconds. You know something? I'm turning into a robot right before my very eyes. My attention span is less. My ability to comprehend things is less. I could not. People go, well, why don't you go past the bar now after all these years? And I say, I pass the bar every day and make sure I have a nice shot at tequila. No, what I mean is, why don't you go past the bar exam? And I say, you know something? I couldn't even find the building now, let alone try to pass that test after all these years, especially with my attention span gone, my ability to concentrate, my ability to sit still without having this damn computer in my face. It's impossible. So, I don't know how people do it anymore. I guess as you get older, your brain gets a little, worn out too, I guess. But anyway, it's really true. And I imagine kids that don't grow up with a book in their hand and the computer in front of their face and all these games, by the time they're 20, they will have the attention span of a less than, a normal dog. And I'll tell you what, right now I have 5 of them, and each of them has about a bigger attention span than I do. So that's what the computer's done to me. So I imagine it's done that to a lot of people. So let's get on with it. Before I get into this subject, and I please don't leave. This is a good subject, and I found a really great history a segment here. I found something that's really good I can use from someone by the name of Catherine O'Donnell, who put together something here. And I'm going to paraphrase and use some of her information and add some of my own. But it'll be a good lesson for you. And hopefully I can remember, my attention span will allow me to do this in this show. I could just flake out after 5 minutes. I don't know. We're going to do a test on each other. Will I be able to go through a nice, serious history lesson about the Jesuits in America from 1700 to 1899, or will I flake out and not be able to concentrate after 5 years, and will you as a listener not be able to comprehend what I say after 30 seconds? That is the test we're putting ourselves under today. And it's going to be great because we're going to realize how we have been mystified and how we've been brainwashed, how we've been told to sit in front of this damn computer our whole life and not get anything valuable done anymore. And that's what's happening to the youth. That's what's happening to the baby boomers, You go into a old people's home now, and none of them will do anything but look at the computer. Yeah. They don't play bingo anymore. They don't do all those games they used to play. They sit there and stare at a computer, and half of them don't change. It's the same page they started out in the morning as they go in at night and go to sleep. Imagine that. So, anyway, I did have to say a few things about what's going on in Washington before I start this test we're going to have today, on whether we both can have attention spans longer than a church mouse to get through this stuff. So, anyway, this stuff in Washington is really getting on my nerves. I mean, it's so ridiculous. I've never heard such garbage in my life regarding people arguing about the Trump administration and him, and then them fighting back saying that the deep state in America is going to take over and there's going to be no America anymore as we know it because the FBI and the CIA and the Justice Department are all there to overthrow or cause what they call a white coup against Donald Trump. All this is theater, and I told you that a long time ago. Look at the theater they're providing us with the Supreme Court justice. Not that any of them are worth it. The higher you go up in our justice system, they're all corrupt in the Supreme Court. None of them you can trust. But anyway, we're selecting another one, and they're putting on a great show. Of course, the Democrats don't want this guy because he's going to overturn Roe v. Wade and make abortions again have to do, the states have to pass them. And what will happen here is, if the Roe v. Wade is overturned at the federal level, it'll seep down to the states, and the states will have the right to tell whether abortions are legal or not in that state. And just like it was before Roe v. Wade, if you're in one state and you couldn't get an abortion, you can just get in an airplane and go to another one and get it done. So that's what will happen. So how many states are going to allow abortions? Well, you can bet the red states, especially in the South, are going to say no. California is going to say yes, so there'll be a ton of abortion clinics here. And then the more liberal states will say yes. What about the states that won't make a decision? Well, they have to. So It'll be back to the way it used to be, because people don't realize, and I asked a person the other day, do you understand what Roe v. Wade really did? It just made it easier because you don't have to get on a train or a plane or a bus if you're a woman and you want an abortion legally. I mean, you can always get it illegally anyway, so I don't know what people are worried about. Everything, I mean, it's just like drugs. Oh, legalize heroin. Who cares? You can get it anytime you want. And the only reason that the government doesn't want to legalize it is because they got a corner on the market. And if it was legal, it'd be cheap. They wouldn't make any money. So they keep it illegal, and they know people can get it. And in fact, they help the drug dealers stay in business, the ones that play ball with the government. And of course, the Vatican gets a cut, probably on both ends. The selling, the buying, and then when these people that get rich off of it have to do money laundering, they know they can go through the Vatican Bank and some of its subsidiaries in the Caribbean, and then they get a 10 to 15% cut on that money. So, I mean, you think they want to legalize this stuff? Keep it illegal. That's where the money is, and that's what they're going to keep doing. Now, as I was saying, this Supreme Court justice, he's pretty level. I mean, he's been in the Washington Federal District, D.C. District. It's one of the most influential. So he's a conservative judge, and boy, the liberals are throwing a fit, and the conservatives are saying this is another delay tactic. And what they did now is they pulled out a girl, whoever she is, that said that this justice, when he was 17 years old, groped her at a party, but she doesn't remember the party. She was drunk, she admits it. Can't say the year, doesn't have any witnesses. And they're actually taking this seriously. And this stupid Democratic Senator, Dianne Feinstein, said that there should be an FBI investigation. Well, what are they going to investigate? You think if you walked into a local FBI, just think of yourself. You walk into a local FBI agency in your town, and you say, listen, this is 35 years ago. I was at a party. I'm now a respectable librarian, and I was at a party 38 years ago. And this guy, I think I know who he is, but I can't be sure. I think it's this guy. But I don't have any witnesses, and I don't really remember where it was, but I have an idea, and he groped me. Can you investigate that? They're going to put you in an insane asylum if you don't get out of there, or they're just going to tell you, ma'am, we need a little bit more information than that. And you think the FBI is going to go out and look for this person when they don't even know what happened? And that's exactly what's going on in Washington. They're actually taking this serious. So that leads me to believe that this is a dog and pony show, a theatrical performance, and really, whether you're on the left or the right, it doesn't matter. They're both playing a game with you. And this explains it perfectly because, what are they doing? Oh, we better respect this woman's rights because, women have been treated bad since the 1920s and they haven't had any rights and we've got to listen to everything. Well, that's a bunch of BS. We ought to just say what it's like. Lady, you're nuts. You have no case. Shut up, go back to where you live, and forget about it. That's what they all should say. But they don't. And even these women, they get on radio and television, these lawyers and then supposedly intelligent people, defending this woman, going, we have been oppressed long enough in this country. Oppressed? Yeah, okay, going back to the 1910 and 20 or whatever, yeah, sure, okay, fine. But that doesn't have anything to do with what's going on today. I wasn't around then. You weren't around then. We have nothing to do about it. And right now, women, you got a better shot at getting a job than I do. If anybody's oppressed, it's a white male over the age of 60. Okay? So why don't I make a big stink about it? My rights have been oppressed. Okay. What are you going to do about it? Hell no. Nothing. All we hear is this garbage. Now if a woman has a legitimate claim and she's been hit by a man, of course. And who in this country right now wouldn't back her. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't crazy people out there, but, women have just as many rights in this country as men, and they don't have any reason to sit up and give me this bullshit about, oh, we've been oppressed for so long, and we have to have this woman come up now who can't even identify when it would happen, who would happen, what happened. Nothing happened. They asked her, were you raped? No. Were you hurt? No. So what is she complaining about? It's a political stunt. That's what tells me that this is a theater. And everything else involved in what's going on in Washington with this Russia scare and the Trump collusion is basically a theater. He's involved. He's in with it. He's in on it. The other side's in on it. And listen, all it's going to do in the end is let the criminals go free. That includes Clinton and all of them. And you are going to be played as the patsy. You are nothing but a little nothing to them. They're your owners. You work for them. You're their slaves. It's that simple. They say slavery ended when the blacks got their rights back during the time of Lincoln, right? Well, when the 14th Amendment came into play, we were all made slaves. Read it. Understand the 14th Amendment. You, me, everyone in this country is nothing but a slave to them. They're the owners, and they're getting away with murder, and they're running to the bank rich while we sit there and worry about it. Forget about it. And that's my last word on it today. All right, let's see if we both, the listeners and me, have enough brain power left, enough concentration ability to at least get through, okay, I got 10 minutes on this side and 25 minutes on the other side of the break. Can we concentrate on something for longer than 15 seconds? Let's see. And Catherine O'Donnell, who wrote this, is going to help us. By God, we're going to try. All right. Jesuits in the American colonies and the United States, 1700 to 1899. People are going, what the hell do I care about? That's ancient history. Well, see, I've already lost some people already after the first sentence. But anyway, as the 18th century began, a handful of Jesuits served the British mainland colonies. Yes, there were a handful of them here. And you could put them in your hand. They were an obscure part of a province, the English, that itself lay far from the center of the church life. Clustered in Maryland. Why did they name it Maryland? Mary, the mother of Jesus, and put land after that, and you got Maryland. So you got clustered in Maryland. These Jesuits ran plantations. Now, why are they doing that? Why don't they... That's my first question. Why don't they just stick to saving souls? But why did they got to run a plantation? As they struggled to... And I bet you they had slaves. These Jesuits ran plantations as they struggled to support themselves and offer pastoral care to a Catholic population that stood below 20,000. Do you realize that? 20,000 minimum, that's maximum in this whole country. And so they had to run a plantation because there weren't enough souls to save. Okay. By the end of the 19th century, much had changed. Oh yeah, what about the end of now? What about 2018? After the society's suppression and restoration, after political revolutions on both sides of the Atlantic, and after waves of immigration, the Society of Jesus, never was there a misnomer. Never was there a name given to a group that is just the complete opposite of what they are. The Society of Jesus in the United States claimed hundreds of members, ran educational institutions across the continent, undertook missions at home and abroad, and confidently participated in international discussions about the future of the global church. Right. They wanted the global world order back then. And how'd they get in here? Well, they had some friends called the Founding Fathers that made sure that the amendment to allow anybody's religion to be practiced here was now in effect. Guess what it did? It opened the door for Jesuits and Catholics to get their grimy hands in this country and grow into the deceitful criminal organization that they are today. And they did it legally, supposedly. A developing history traces the dramatic transformation of the Jesuits, while also revealing the changing purposes and methodologies of historians of American Catholicism. You know, you got to read between the lines with this thing in the beginning here, and I think most of us that listen to this show understand that this dramatic transformation was a plan, and a deceitful one at best. Now, by 1700s, Jesuits in the colonies had abandoned their original purpose of evangelizing American Indians. That's not true. And I wanted to correct a lot of things here as I move along. That is not true. Most of the there was a number of Jesuit schools, mission schools, that I might, tell this author to think about and go back to some of my old radio programs. The Jesuit mission schools were in effect all the way into, and they still are settling lawsuits about genocide of these poor Indian children as we spoke 5 years ago. So you're telling me they abandoned their purpose of evangelizing American Indians? They never had a purpose of evangelizing American Indians. They wanted to genocide American Indians, and they did quite a good job of it. They didn't just stop here in America. They went above into Canada and had their mission schools there. And we've documented on this program and many other people that have caught on before and after me the real purpose of these schools. And that was to basically get rid of the remaining American and Canadian Indians that were left on this land. And they did a hell of a good job if you go back to some of these stories about the Jesuit mission schools. Okay, I got to check the time, because I have a tendency of going over when I'm enjoying myself. And you can tell I'm enjoying myself right now. Now, let's just give this lady a little benefit of the doubt. Of course, we're not going to let her get away with saying evangelizing Indians, but by the genocide. Maybe their major concentration wasn't on genociding them, but they still had enough of the Jesuits to do that. They still set up enough mission schools to accomplish that. And we know that's documented by the lawsuits that have been settled for just what I'm talking about. The latest one was backed by the Tamaki law firm in Washington State of over $200 million given to the remaining survivors of one of these mission schools, where they even witnessed a priest killing a little baby, then burying the baby under the altar. Now, there's no statute of limitations on murder, but it seems our great authorities, the FBI and all these local police agencies, didn't want to believe this person. And they didn't even want to believe another person that saw the same thing. And they didn't want to dig up any bones under the Jesuit altar, did they? No. They were told to lay off. I wonder who told them to lay off. So, when I say that the Jesuits get away with murder, I don't mean it in a funny kind of way. I don't mean it generally. I mean it, they do get away with murder. And the authorities are backing down on many, many murders that they've accomplished because they're supposedly the Society of Jesus. They're supposedly a church who's helping everyone in this country. They're supposedly above this kind of actions. They're God on earth. And they can't kill poor innocent babies, can they? No. So we're not even going to investigate it. We're going to say that the people that see this are crazy, that the people that say this are Catholic haters, that the people that say this only want to get notoriety and money and want to slander these poor Jesuit priests. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. you will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, let's get right back at it here in the second half hour of the Investigative Journal. Go to my website at greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com. Get shows going back well over 15 years on the Vatican-led New World Order. Don't hesitate. Go over there right now and you can lend a hand and donate. We're listener-sponsored for whatever listeners are left. And we'll continue broadcasting until the sun don't shine anymore. Okay. So we have this, I hope people are still listening. Are your patience has run out? Is your patience running thin? Well, anyway, I'm still at it here, and you can tell I'm having a good time. I'm also having to spice this up a little bit. That's probably just to keep listeners and to keep myself interested. But anyway, deep within what I'm saying here is a story, a history lesson. So don't hit the dial, as they say. By 1700, Jesuits had abandoned what I said earlier, the genocide of American Indians, but also focused their attention on the Catholics of European descent living in Maryland, Pennsylvania, and New York. What did they want to do with them? Genocide them too? Or just convert them? That's the same thing, isn't it? Converting to Catholicism is just like killing yourself, in my estimation. Your life is over. You have no bearings. You have no right in anything anymore because the Pope is going to tell you what to do. So, long journeys on horseback allowed members of the Maryland mission to offer Mass and the sacraments to their far-flung flock. Let's not say that 10 times fast. Far-flung flock, far-flung flock, far-flung... I can't do it. Anyway, Massachusetts, okay, saying a Mass, do you know the Mass is probably the most, it's a disgrace. When you look at the ceremonies, they're all pagan, and they pass it off as Christian. You know, it's amazing. And when they put that little host up in the monstrance is the sun. That's that thing that holds the sun. The host is like they want to kill God every day. Kill him, because you eat him. Just like you eat a person. Just like you're a cannibal. That's what they do in the Mass. And if you know, I said it kind of crudely, but you get my drift. Okay. So they're running around on horseback now, those poor horses. You know, those horses are talking to themselves going, you know, I really enjoyed pulling the plow more than carrying these son of bitches around on my back. Okay, so mission to offer Mass and sacraments to their far-flung flock. Despite limited resources and severe restrictions on Catholic worship, oh boy, these poor people, they have severe restrictions on their worship. And we can't have that, can we? Not in a country like America, where everyone has the right to bullshit everybody else about their religion. And that's what it boils down to. In the first decades of the 18th century, despite the persistence of those restrictions, and despite the fact that Catholics were a minority even in Maryland, the wealth and confidence of the colony's Catholics grew. Oh, really? It grew. I wonder how. Children of the Catholic gentry began to enter orders in Europe, including the Society of Jesus. Jesuits established new plantations on Maryland's eastern shore, started an academy for boys. I wonder how much sexual stuff went on there that we don't hear about. Yeah. Do you think that you hear all this sexual abuse now going on? I imagine what went on there. Jesuits established new plantations, started their academy for boys, and had a church built in Baltimore. By the second third of the century, Jesuits were increasingly active in Philadelphia, and few ministered to German-speaking farmers in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania. Well, tell me, how did this happen? Because before that, Protestants didn't want these people being next to them. They knew they might get their head cut off. Or at least they understood what the Vatican was all about. How did it occur? Well, it occurred this way. The Founding Fathers allowed them in. This was an orchestrated effort to increase the Jesuit strength in this country to the point now when you look at their organization and their wealth, and I'm talking about all the different denominations, Dominicans, Holy Cross Fathers, you name it. It's amazing. And you don't think this was orchestrated? By the 2nd or 3rd century, Jesuits were increasingly active all over the place. Imagine now. Yet the mission remained tiny, consisting of fewer than 24 priests and attracting little interest from the English province. Despite their scant numbers and modest ambitions, the little band provoked mistrust. Protestant colonists still believed. Good. Here's what I wanted to hear. But they're not successful because now the Protestants are just like Catholics. Doesn't make any difference. Even ecumenical movement has taken over, infiltrated most Protestant churches where they don't know what the word protest means against the Vatican anymore. Protestant colonists believed Jesuits conspired to provoke slave rebellions. Sounds like them. And leagued with Indians and the French. They and all Catholics were thought to be enemies to liberty and patriotism, and they were right. New York City enjoyed annual Guy Fawkes parades, in which the Pope was burned in effigy. That should be going on today. And colonists read and contributed to the transatlantic print culture of mockery and condemnation. In 1774, news of the Society's suppression arrived in Maryland in the This is the most interesting point of history, because it's never, only in small circles, reported correctly. Because here, in 1774, news of the Society's suppression. We know that what we hear publicly is that the Jesuits were suppressed, disbanded by the Pope. And this information arrived in the midst of an imperial crisis that would soon send the colonies lurching towards independence. Do you think that had any coincidence that the Jesuits were told, the colonists here were told the Jesuits were no longer an enemy? Yes. That was thought up by one of the Jesuit generals, Lorenzo Ricci. His idea was, as you know, he had translated Sun Tzu's book of Art of War, and some even say that Jesuits wrote that because they were very influential in China. So, his idea, which you'll never hear, and people will say, oh, you're crazy, is that he wasn't killed. He didn't die in prison. The death was faked, and he came over on a boat and gave the final instructions to our founding fathers on how to carry this thing out. And people talk about it, very few, but there was a man called the Professor that went there that fit his description, and it is a very interesting story that I've told before. So if Ricci had the idea of, let your enemy think you are dead, because then he will turn a blind eye and you can get away with more. Because in the Art of War by Sun Tzu, one of the major tenets is that allow your enemy to think you're weak. Because once your enemy thinks you're weak, you'll let your guard down. And when you let your guard down, and sometimes under the cover of night, under, situations where they don't even think you exist, you can get a lot more accomplished. That's what they did here, I think. So this idea that they were disbanded, the Jesuits, this word gets to the colony, so the colony thinks, we don't have to worry about them anymore, is true. But think about it. Then automatically after 1776, and America's now got the Constitution, now Jesuits can come here legally, and the Vatican can come here legally because of the Constitution, and they could not be discriminated against, supposedly, because of their religion. They were, magically reinstated in 1825 or something like that, in that vicinity. No, I don't buy it. Now, the combined events returned a former Jesuit and scion of the Catholic Maryland, John Carroll. We've talked many times about the first Bishop, John Carroll, and he was the richest guy here. In fact, Washington, D.C. is built on his property. Why not Philadelphia? I always wondered that. Have you ever wondered that? Why the capital of our country wasn't Philadelphia? It makes all the sense in the world, because this country is a Catholic country from the beginning. So they gave it to Carroll in the Catholic holdings in Washington, D.C., his big farm. Carroll came from one of the most prominent Maryland Catholic clans, the most prominent, and he lived in Europe, trained in Europe as a Jesuit, first as a student and then as a novice and a Jesuit since he was 12 years old. A supporter of independence. Oh, really? Look, I'm tired of this, to read this kind of stuff. That's why I've done this. You're going to hear they were supporters of independence, sure, because that's what but behind they had another agenda. The best way to get away with anything is to make your enemy think you're one of them, or, for example, if you want to be a fascist and you want to take over a country, make sure you tell them you're a Democrat and you are independent and you want everyone to have their independence. It's just like the dictators who get up there in these third world countries, like Venezuela is a good example, will say, I'm a socialist. I want this whole country to be in the gray, everybody to be equal. Yeah, everybody's equal, but the few elite people, the rest of the people are starving or running out of the country. So what did they say here? Oh, we are independent. We are democratic. We want a free country, when in fact they want just the opposite. But they could never get there if they came out and told the truth, could they? So Carroll emerged from this revolution determined to create a vibrant Catholic Church while preserving the possibility of a restored society. He organized the ex-Jesuits into a select body of clergy, a civil body intended to safeguard Jesuit properties, keep alive the Ignatian spirit. What is the Ignatian spirit? They always try to make it seem like they're doing something good, when the Ignatian spirit is the most evil of all, and tend to American Catholics. Under Carroll's guidance, the select body had its Maryland properties incorporated by the state, after which it was often referred to as a corporation, and founded the nation's first Catholic-run college, Georgetown. My God. Look at this. Georgetown University sits right next to the White House. Right? And like I like to joke about, but there probably is, there's a secret tunnel there so they can tell the president what the hell to do every day. And it's amazing to me that, and then move a little bit farther and go to 40, 50, when they started the School of Foreign Service by a Father Edmund Walsh, who I've talked about many times, who was nothing but a spy, nothing but working for the CIA, and he'd go to Russia to get Stalin in power under the guise that he was bringing money for the Bolshevik Revolution to help the poor. What a crock. Well, anyway, he started the School of Foreign Service. When he died, he was honored by Eisenhower, and he still has a page on Eisenhower's website. One day, I felt kind of chipper, and I decided to call Georgetown and stated I was doing an article about the late Father Edmund Walsh, and I'd heard he was nothing but a spy. Can somebody talk to me about it? Oh, my God. That call, I sat on the phone for 30 minutes before somebody got on the line and said, oh, I will have someone get back. What's your, and then they get back and they said, what's your email? What's this? And then we'll send you all the information we have on Father Edmund Walsh. I said, okay. I got this glowing report like he was the next best thing from sliced bread. Another BS story. But that's what you're going to get. I remember the day came when I called. There's Jesuit provinces in this country, and they each have a section of the United States, and then they have basically, it's very well organized. Hitler used it because he even said, I organized my Third Reich by the Society of Jesus, the way they organize things. So I figured it must be pretty good. So I started calling them, and I started to understand how it operates. There's a hierarchy. I mean, it's amazing. It's very organized. There's a provincial head. He reports to this guy, this guy, this guy. The provincial head then reports to the head of the provincial head, which then there's one big guy that takes care of everything in America, and he reports to Rome. So I figured, boy, how do I ever get an answer? Because every time I'd ask a question, they'd say, well, we got to go and talk to this provincial head. Then we got to get permission from the head of the American provincial head. And then he's got to talk to Rome. I said, well, by that time I'll be dead. Can you at least give me an answer on a couple little questions I have? And I couldn't get any. And that's the way they operate. It's not a religious organization. Not at all, by any means. And how many of you can say that you have even called one of the provincials? I called every one of them. And so I think I know what I'm talking about. And I got nowhere. So it's another wasted day. right? But at least I understood how these guys operate. They are basically just like the Nazi Third Reich. And the Nazi Third Reich said it. We basically, Hitler even stated, we basically patterned the Third Reich based on the way the Jesuits run their Society of Jesus. I'm not making it up. That's what he said. So, here we go. We got Georgetown still there running the show. Let me tell you a little story, so you don't think I'm crazy, because we forget easily as human beings, especially when we listen to the internet or watch the internet every day. But you remember 9/11, don't you? You remember that, and you remember what happened after 9/11. They passed the Patriot Act, which basically was taking away your rights. That means they can strip search you when you go onto an airplane. I mean, Fourth Amendment rights out the window. Search and seizure rights out the window. So basically, the Patriot Act was geared to steal your rights, and they had to use 9/11 as a reason for it, to justify it. And most Americans said, okay, look, we don't want these ragheads to come in here and take us over. So, the Patriot Act, where did it come from? It was passed very quickly after 9/11. In fact, let me give you some statistics. None of the senators even read it all. And in fact, it was a 320-some page document that was written prior to 9/11. And guess who wrote it? The head writer was a Jesuit named Vin Dim, a lawyer from Vietnam who worked at Georgetown. Okay? So a Jesuit is the head writer of the Patriot Act, helping. He's the lawyer working at Georgetown. They write the Patriot Act prior to 9/11. Now, did they have some idea that 9/11 was going to happen? And then, once it happened, they throw it to Congress, 12 days after 9/11 or something, and Congress passes it like that, and nobody even reads it. It was like 300-some pages. So, tell me, when I say that Georgetown runs the White House, I think I'm right. So, back to 1790. Carroll was consecrated as the new nation's first bishop. Yes, the first bishop. Now we have the first Jesuit pope, right? That was in 1790. Now we have the first Jesuit pope, and he was the first one to speak to the joint assembly of our Congress, treated as if he was a king. In fact, when he talked to people at the White House, he was way, way up on a podium, higher than even the president would be to talk to the people. Then he went to the United Nations and gave a speech to the world leaders. And somebody will say, well, popes have given speeches to the United Nations before. No. They've given speeches to the United Nation delegates. But never has there been a pope who gave a speech to the world leaders who all came to assemble to listen to the king of the world, tell him what to do. And they don't know, we know what 666 is, right? Or 666. The sign of the Antichrist, right? Well, that number's empty, and they have a chair there for that with that number that no one sits in. That's interesting. We forget about that as well. And somebody say, well, who wants to sit in the 666 seat? Well, why do they even have it? They don't have to have it there. There's not a 13th floor in a hotel, right? They can take out that chair, but they don't, because they're a Luciferian organization as well. Okay, so I got 4 minutes, and we're prodding through this history lesson, and I hope you've learned something here. He was the first bishop in 1790, and by 1808 appointed as the country's first archbishop. Boy, what a guy. His jurisdiction effectively stretched from northern New England through the Louisiana Territory, with some of the West Indies thrown in for good measure. During this era of anti-popery, it remained common in American political rhetoric, and there were still printed forays directed at Catholicism and Jesuits. In 1788, to Carroll's horror, an itinerant Irish priest named Patrick Smythe, dates unknown, who had just returned to Ireland after ministering in Maryland, published a pamphlet that attacked Jesuit reliance on slavery and insisted that within the reliance lay the seeds of a more general corruption. Mr. Smythe had it right. Nonetheless, Catholics enjoyed expanding civil liberties in growing numbers. But Smythe had it right. They were slave owners. They had a deeper corruption in mind, which played out. It's played out after that. It's been playing out through the time of Lincoln, through the time of the Industrial Revolution, all the way up to today. Nothing has changed. Slow, drip, 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 till we have a one world order, a one world government in place. And people will love it. Yes, especially nowadays, because, all they got to do is put something on the internet, people will believe it. And all they got to do is, if they don't want them to believe it, they'll just put some, dog and pony show on there, and people will be like, wow, 400 million hits. Did you see that? And it was some crazy person, juggling, putting a ball on his nose for an hour and not falling down or something. One of those, what do they call it? Viral interviews, viral YouTubes or whatever. Everybody wakes up every day and goes, how can I make a viral YouTube? What can I do? What can I do? While the Jesuits and the Vatican and the rest of these elites in Washington will run right over you. That's exactly what the internet's intended for. Yes, diversion. Diversion, diversion, diversion. So I'm going to end this because I'm running out of time. During this anti-Pope era, we have all this stuff, and we had Smythe try to tell people the truth, but nobody listens. Even back then, no one cared about the truth, especially in this country. Nonetheless, Catholics enjoyed expanding their civil liberties. You see what they've done. As Bishop and Archbishop Carroll wrestled. They did. They wrestled together. It's him alone. He's both the bishop and archbishop. Wrestled with the question of how to nurture the American church while supporting ex-Jesuit efforts to maintain their properties and prerogatives, and conflicts flared over issues such as assignment of priests and the control of Georgetown, all this stuff. Look, all they were caring about was how much control, how much property could they amass, how much wealth, how much intrigue can they get to get their one world order, one world government in place. And this has been a long, long-standing goal, going back hundreds of years. So it's nothing new, and it's good to look at some of the little tidbits of history that we're going over today. Hope you come back, because I'm not done. We're not yet to 1899. So we'll be back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.